Hello there and welcome. This video is about junctions. So we're going to start off by looking at the basics and then go into a bit more detail. So the video is suitable for you if you are about to do your CBT or you are about to start test training. So the CBT starts you off with a bit of knowledge about junctions in element C, where you will do some left and right turns on the off-road training area. You will then develop that further with knowledge gained in element D and the practical application on road in element E. If you come for test training, that knowledge will be developed even further, so you are ready for your test. So unfortunately, many accidents happen in the UK at junctions, and this is because there's a lot to think about and a lot going on. So your knowledge and understanding of how to deal with a junction correctly and your knowledge of the highway code is vital to your own personal safety. To help us deal with junctions, we use what is known as a system, and that system will first be introduced to you on your CBT. The system is known as OSMP SL, or Observation Signal Maneuver Position Speed Look. And we will now look at that system in more detail. Okay, so we can see here we have the OSMP SL system, sometimes referred to as OSP SL. So the car drivers amongst you will remember mirror signal maneuver. And the reason we have changed it slightly for motorcyclists is motorcycles do not legally need to have mirrors. So the system has to be observe signal maneuver rather than mirror signal maneuver. So we're approaching the hazard, in this case a junction, where we intend to turn right. We take effective rear observations to start the system running, and this should be an update because you should be checking your mirrors regularly anyway. This may be a mirror check, it may be a mirror check or a lifesaver. In this situation, mirrors is enough. If it's safe and we can do our manoeuvre, we show our intentions by signalling, and we then take up the correct position on the road. Before we change our road position, we will consider whether a lifesaver is needed or not. And normally in these circumstances it isn't needed, but you should always consider it. And adjust our speed accordingly, and we can do those two things simultaneously. As we're approaching the hazard, we are scanning to the left and to the right and looking at the junction and the major road ahead so that we can assess what's going on, make a decision and finally act. And we keep looking until it is safe to emerge onto the major road. Having now emerged onto the major road, we start the system again. We check our mirrors, take effective rear observations to make sure we're safe from behind. We turn our signal off, consider our position, our speed, and we look up the road for the next set of hazards. And so that system keeps rolling. And if we're part way through the system and things change, we just come back to the beginning again and start working our way through it. And that is a good way to deal with all hazards because it's not a haphazard way of using the road. It's methodical and calm. So you will see several types of junction out on the road. The first type of junction is a give-way junction. These are clearly identifiable by the use of an inverted triangle, sometimes painted on the road and sometimes with a road sign by the side of the road in red, white and black. They will always have broken white lines. It's a double set of broken white lines for traffic leaving the junction and entering the major road, and traffic from the major road into the minor road crosses over a single row of broken white lines. Some more minor junctions may only have road markings, and in some rural areas they may just be double broken white lines across the edge of the entire carriageway where it's a single lane. At a give-way junction, you are legally required to give way to the traffic on the major road. So you must not come out of this junction if you would affect the speed or position of any other road user. So you must also give way to pedestrians who have started to cross the road at the junction. It is their right of way. The other junction is a stop junction, shown by the octagonal stop sign and the solid thick white line at the edge of the carriageway across the road. you must come to a complete stop at a stop junction, and failure to do so is an offence, and of course you will fail your test if you do not stop. So another junction that you will commonly see is a junction that is controlled by traffic lights. Here, when required to stop by the lights, you must stop at the solid white line. This is similar to the stop line we saw earlier, but it isn't quite as thick. Just be aware that when the lights do go green, that means you may proceed if the junction is clear. And never assume that a green light means it is safe to go through the junction. You must always check this for yourself. We will now look at road positioning. To help, you will see a variety of diagrams. The green lines show potential safe routes and positions at junctions, and the red lines will show some common mistakes that I often see. However, these are not definitive guidance, as your positioning and routes at junctions may vary depending on the circumstances present at the time. Now, road positioning is quite a complex area for motorcyclists because we're quite a narrow vehicle. But in principle it's the same for cars as it is for bikes, it's just that we have to be a lot more accurate in how we position. So when considering road positioning, the first factor we must always consider is safety. If we're not in a safe place on the road, we're not in the correct position. Other factors to consider are our stability, what the road is like underneath our tyres, the smoothness of the line that we can achieve, can we see the road ahead, and can other road users see us. Our position also gives information to other road users potentially. So if we were to position to the left and then turn right, that would be very confusing. So initial guidance at CBT is normally to turn left, position towards the left, to turn right, position towards the right, and when riding normally or occupying a lane that is dedicated for you to use at traffic lights or roundabouts, for example, to dominate the middle of your appropriate lane. So when you wish to turn left from a minor road onto a major road, you should position towards the left. This gives other road users an indication of what your intentions are. You should be far enough to the left that a pedal cycle or a motorcycle would be discouraged from trying to get between you and the curb, and that gives you some safety before you turn. Most curbs on a left turn are angled towards the left, and you should follow that curvature around with your motorcycle. This means that your front wheel is pointing in the direction of the turn and makes it much easier for you to join the new road without swinging wide towards the centre white line, which is potentially hazardous. If you were to have a dedicated lane to turn left, you would generally occupy the middle of that lane, but you would need to be aware of anyone that may come up on your left hand side. When emerging and wishing to turn right, you position towards the white line, but not so close to the white line that any part of your machine or body breaks that white line, and that any vehicle coming into the junction cannot harm you. When turning left from a major road onto a minor road, we will generally occupy the middle of our lane to turn, and that gives us a reasonable view into the junction and reasonable clearance from the curb. You may on wide roads choose to position slightly to the left, but you do not want to be hard left into that gutter, as it restricts view and makes you far too tight towards the curb. You would not want to be out towards the right to turn left, as you would leave a massive gap between you and the curb that another road user could occupy. When turning right from a major road to take a side road, you should move towards the centre white line of the road, but yet again not so close that it would be dangerous to you for the threat of oncoming traffic. One major factor to look at on all roads when choosing your position is how wide the road is, and the narrower the road is, the more you must moderate these positions so that other vehicles coming towards you, especially wide vehicles, do not come into conflict with you. So safety is always the trump card, and nothing beats safety when thinking about positioning. Okay, so we're going to go out on the road now on the motorcycle and have a look at some various junctions whilst riding. So in training you're likely to hear instructors say when it is safe, you may emerge when it is safe, you may ride on when it is safe. But what does safe actually mean? If you're already a road user, you've probably got a very good idea. But for those of you that have not used the road before, let's look at it in a bit more detail. So when it comes to emerging from a junction, from a minor road onto a major road, if you can walk across, chances are it's safe enough for you to ride out onto the new road. The bottom line is, you must not cause any other road user to change speed or direction. So if you cannot join that new road and get up to the correct speed in the appropriate time without affecting someone else, it is not safe. When it comes to entering junctions from the major road, we need to make sure that we can always travel at a speed so that we can stop safely in the distance we can see to be clear. We must not just go tearing round a junction and then find that the road is blocked and we can't stop. So safety has a very broad meaning. And experience is what tells you what is safe and what isn't once you have that basic understanding. So before we enter a junction, we should always make sure it's safe. So we're turning left here. We can't see around this corner, so we need to reduce our speed so we can follow the safe stopping rule. Make sure we can actually see and stop in the distance we can see to be clear. So at the end of this road we're going to turn right, and we can already see that the junction is looking pretty wide. If you don't know the road, you don't know the sort of view you're going to get when you get down there. Now we're in a one-way street, so to turn right at a junction in a one-way street we need to position to the right. So I'm going to check my mirrors, we'll just check my blind spot. Now if you look at the road markings here, we're going to move across towards the right, but not right in towards the curve, and we're following that curvature around. Now I've got a nice view of the road. I'm nicely positioned to enter the new road safely. I just have to make sure that nobody's coming up either side of me. So we're going to turn right at the traffic lights. This is a very hazardous manoeuvre, so I am positioning towards the right with my right signal. Hanging back a little bit, I can't turn, it's not my priority. I have to be careful of cars coming up my left hand side. A right lifesaver before I commit to the turn, and away we go when it is safe. So here we're going to turn right. It's a right lifesaver before we turn in. It's a one-way street, so we can be fairly central on the entry, and at the end of the road we're going to turn right. One-way street still. So mirror, consider lifesaver, position towards the right. So I'm positioning towards the right, but I'm not in the gutter. And you can see we're back to that large junction again. This time I'm going to turn left. So it's mirror, signal, consider left lifesaver, position to the left. Just angle your bike slightly to the left. Not a great view there, but good enough view that we can emerge. And as always, once we complete the manoeuvre and we join the major road, straight on your mirrors, cancel that signal. So you're just repeating your rear ob signal. Manoeuvre, position, speed, look, routine, and just using what you need from it. So at the end of the road we have a stop junction. We're required by law to stop at that junction every time. So I am going to position towards the left, but you'll notice we've got a junction right on top of this one. So there's the complete stop that we must do. Now as I come out of this junction, I need to cancel the signal immediately so people don't think that I am turning left, but in fact I am following the road ahead. So now, cancel the signal and we ride on. At the end of the road I'm going to turn right. Got a stop junction here. Now the road's quite narrow because of the parked vehicles, and that's why I've angled those bars in to the right even more than usual. And I will use that slow speed control technique that we've spoken about before to help me do this manoeuvre. Now where's that car going? He's not indicating. I've just got a feeling he's going to turn across towards me though. Just keeping an eye on him. Quite a busy little junction, so you've got to keep your eyes moving all the time. He's just given me a little signal, which was quite helpful. I just had a feeling he was going to turn towards me. If in doubt, wait. Now we're going to take the second turning on the left. If I signal now, that car could pull out in front of me. So I'm checking the mirrors. I'm not going to position to the left in case he pulls out. I'm going to put my signal on now so we can see it. He's nice and stationary, and we can complete the turn safely. So at the end of the road, I'm going to turn right, rear obs, signal, positioning towards the white line, speed and a gentle stop. Now here we stop with our wheel pointing towards the curb, but once we've stopped, if we put a little angle on the handlebars, it'll help us go out towards the centre of the new carriageway. We don't want to be swinging out wide towards the curb and then struggling to do a 90-degree turn. So the junction here at the end of the road tells us we must turn right. We have no entry in front of us. We have no entry to the left. It's a give-way junction, so I don't have to stop. If I come in slowly, I've got lots of time to observe what's going on. Now at the end of the road, we are approaching a give-way junction, which means we don't have to stop if we can see that it's clear. But it's what we call a closed junction, and we cannot see to the right at all. We're just starting to get a view to the left, but it's no view to the right, so it's a bit of a semi-closed junction. That's why it's a give-way, because if you're turning left, there's no problem there at all, but turning right is difficult. And in these situations, what you need to do, and you can put both feet down, you can just come out, crawl out, get that view, and only proceed once you see that it is clear to do so. So you must not come out of a closed junction without first stopping at the give-way line and then getting a view that's necessary. And those closed junctions can be created by the layout of the road itself, or they may be created by parked vehicles. So we're going to turn right here. So it's rear obs, signal, position. Now, I don't know if you noticed, that bus was really close to the white line. So although we say position towards the right for a right turn, we don't always want to be very close to that white line. It's dangerous. So you have to consider the width of your road, the oncoming traffic, how far you can actually see up that road in case a large vehicle suddenly comes around the corner and you're in the wrong place and it all gets a little bit tight. So yes, we do generally want to position towards the right for a right turn, but we have to be careful that we don't just go there by default and put ourselves at risk from an oncoming vehicle. Okay, so at the end of the road we're going to turn right. So I'm checking the mirrors, signal, position towards the right, but I'm not going to be really tight on that white line because it's quite a narrow road junction. And this is what we call a semi-closed junction because of the parked cars. So to the left we've got quite a good view, but to the right I can't see clearly enough past that black Ford. Now I can see a car there quite clearly because it's quite a big car, but I still need a good view of the road, so I'm just going to gently come out. Just see that one coming up, so we'll just stop there. Checking those mirrors. Now, final view is all good, and away we go. Mirror check, cancel signal, job done. So we're going to take the second turning on the right, so it's rear obs, signal once we're past that right turn, position. You can see where the road markings should be, they're a bit faded. Checking the mirrors, right lifesaver, look into the junction, turning in without crossing that central white line. So that's referred to as cutting the corner. So if you cut the corner on the CBT, the instructor won't be very pleased with that. And And if you cut the corner on your test, you'll fail your test. You may only cross that white line if it's absolutely necessary to do so. So turning left here, rear ob signal, position speed, look, coming in slowly because I didn't have a great view there initially, made sure I could see before I committed. At the end of the road we're going to turn left. We can see that's a giveaway junction, so it's rear obs, signal, position. So I'm going to start coming into the left after that car, speed, look. Bit of a closed junction this one, caused by the cars, can't see past those cars. So I'm just going to ease the bike out gently, very very gently, just until I confirm the view. Once I've got that view, we know it's safe to go. Don't ever gamble. If you can't see, make sure you can see. It's just not worth the risk of rushing it. So at this junction then, I'm just positioning into the left and I'm just facing my wheel slightly towards the left, and that helps me occupy the centre of my lane as I leave the junction. What we don't want to be doing is coming up to the junction with your wheel pointing right out in the middle of the road and then swinging wide out onto that white line, because that's potentially dangerous. So we're approaching a junction which is clearly an open junction. We have excellent views right across left and right. It's a giveaway. We have 2 lanes on the exit for a left and a right turn, and we can just come out of here as long as it's clear. So at the end of the road we're going to turn right, rear obs, signal, position. Now, not too close to the white line, and come in gently in case someone comes in from the left and cuts the corner. So when we're positioning to turn right, we should be towards the centre of our lane, but so no part of our machine or body breaks that white line. And the narrower the road, the less close we should be to that white line, because we have to anticipate other vehicles coming into the junction and we don't want to be dangerously close to them. So for a left turn here, I'm positioning in the centre of my lane and considering that left lifesaver before turning in. So as we approach this junction and we're going to turn right, we don't want to get into it too fast in case someone coming from our left cuts the corner and comes out in front of us. Now this is what we call a closed junction, very poor view, so we just want to make sure we stop in the correct place just to get that extra view before we commit. And then when it is safe, we look in the direction of the turn and we get on with it. As soon as we complete the turn, check those mirrors to make sure no one's come around that bend and given us a problem. And of course, turning the signal off at the same time. So here we need to take the second turning on the right. So we'll need to give a signal and use the system to move into the central island here that's marked out for us. And then we need to reapply the system and reapply the signal to turn right. So I'm turning right here, but because of the parked car, I'm not positioning right until it is safe to do so, in case someone came into the junction fast and came straight round. So leading the bike in so we avoid the parked car nice and early. Turning right here, rear ob signal, position, speed, right lifesaver. We're going to use that slow speed control technique to come around this junction, get the view around the van, mirror check, cancel signal. Now at the end of the road I'm going to turn right, but we've got parked cars, so I'm not going to position to the right, because if someone came around that corner they come straight out towards me. Now I can start positioning towards the right, but I'm not going to be too tight on the white line. If you look at the junction, it's actually not that wide, so anyone turning from my right or from my left into this junction could swing wide and catch me. So for safety, I don't want to get too close to that centre line. I'm still positioned towards the right. And I'm going to come early position towards the white line, because of the parked cars. So I'm going to turn right here, yet again delaying positioning to the right because of the road narrowing. Right lifesaver, look into the junction, gently into the turn. The van concealed a bit of your view into the junction there. And at the end of the road we're going to turn left. Notice how this road cambers quite a bit to the left. Now if you had a high bike and you weren't very happy, you could stop very gently on that front brake and put your right foot down. And then that way you're not leaning heavily into the camber with the fear of your bike tipping over on you. So whilst we say in training, stop with your left foot down, keep your brake foot up, there are circumstances where we may want to reverse that. So here we have some traffic lights and we can see the lanes marked out here. So we use the appropriate lane. As a general rule for positioning, we're going to position in the centre of our appropriate lane. So these traffic lights are completely out of action, so we have to treat it like a crossroads. It's what we call an uncontrolled junction. Quite difficult to use, needs a lot of care, a lot of attention. So a junction that seems to catch a lot of people out is a box junction. And it shouldn't, because if you know your highway code, you'll know that you can enter the box junction if you are turning right, and only prevented by doing so from oncoming traffic. Otherwise, of course, you may not enter the box junction. So the junction we're approaching here is a give way, but it's onto a 70-mile-an-hour dual carriageway road. So we need to be very careful. We can't just come out in front of high-speed traffic. So we're coming in nice and gently. It's an open junction, we can see the view. And as the bike straightens up, we check the mirrors and we accelerate so that we achieve a sensible speed on the main carriageway at the earliest opportunity. It's worth mentioning at this point about junctions and bends together. Now we know that junctions have a very high risk of collision, but bends do as well. So the two in combination, by their very nature, provide a big problem for you as a motorcyclist if you don't deal with them correctly. And I do see a lot of road users driving far too fast where there's junctions on bends. Even if it's their right of way, they don't slow down. To raise your awareness, to make sure that you don't fall victim to going over a junction too quickly, even when it's your right of way, and having someone pull out in front of you because they were unable to see you or they were careless at the junction. So this clip here shows you quite clearly why you're scanning, looking through the traffic, looking through trees is so vitally important, and your awareness of where junctions are. So we've come to the end of this video now. I can't show you everything to do with junctions, but hopefully we've covered a few aspects there to give you a little bit of an insight what to expect on your training, and a few extra areas to be aware of to keep yourself safe on the road. You will cover these things in a lot more detail on your training courses, hopefully. So until then, ride safe and take care. I'll see you next time.